Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right. We're ranking Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil is a 2024 American psychological horror film. A remake of the 2022 Danish film follows an American family who are invited to stay at a remote farmhouse of a British couple for the weekend. The hosts soon begin to test the limits of their guests as the situation escalates. Now, I did not know, watching this movie, that it was based on another movie that released in 2022. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to talk about how it is different. From what I could read about the movie, it seems like they're not very different at all, other than the place in which it takes place. But it seems like the plot follows a similar line. I just didn't read about what happens towards the end because I do want to watch this movie at some point. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to talk about some of the differences, but this is a movie that I thought was really well done, and so let's talk about and explain some of those things in the 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Now, the plot of this movie, it's kind of hard to talk about the movie without giving some spoilers, so I would suggest skipping the plot aspect if you don't want to hear a little bit about it, if you just want to go into it blind. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. I'm not going to really spoil any dramatic things. The plot is okay. You know, it's an interesting plot, but it's been done before, and it's been done well before. I think that is probably one of the only things that kind of holds this movie back, is the fact that it's just a plot about a friendly couple who finds another couple, and things start to get weird throughout the movie, and you realize that things are not what they seem. I feel like that idea has been done a lot, and for some reason I feel it's been done a lot recently, but the execution is done well, but the plot itself is just okay. I would say I was also just disappointed with the ending of this movie. I thought they were going to go a different direction, and they didn't. I felt they went kind of a safe direction rather than where they could have gone, and I would have preferred that they take that leap, but instead they kind of did an ending that is pretty traditional, and that was a little bit of a letdown for me. But there's nothing about this plot that's really unique and crazy. It's exactly kind of what you think it is, and if you've watched the trailers, you pretty much know exactly what this movie is about. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Now, with it being said that they have a very typical plot, I would say that rolls into the attraction. Though the plot of so-and-so finds so-and-so, they think everything's okay, and as the movie goes on, you realize things are weird. There's nothing really unique about this that is a little bit of a curve on that makes it more interesting than your other movies. What is interesting about this movie is the execution, but as far as the story goes, the attraction is about exactly what you think it is. It's not anything unique. Now, third is theme. What message or truth is a movie trying to convey? Now, this is something that I think is done purposefully in this movie. I do believe there is a message, but you might be able to just miss it, and it may just be me interpreting it. However, I do think the director did have a point, and I feel he was expressing some of the dangers of social normality and not stepping up to the plate when you need to step up to the plate, not saying something is not right in a situation where it's hard to say that it's not right. And some of the actions taken by the main character in this movie, you could sum it up as just being a trope of thrillers or horror movies, that they're just making decisions that aren't that smart, and you would think, man, if I was in that situation, I would not do that. But I would say it was purposefully done. I think they were expressing the dangers of doing that. Now, somewhat of a spoiler here, if you want to just skip right to dialogue, something he says in this movie that I feel is what makes it seem purposeful is towards the end, when one of the main characters asks, "Why are you doing this?" The other main character says, "Because you let me." And that sentence right there that is what makes me feel it was purposefully done. That's what makes me feel that there was a message to be conveyed, saying that, hey, you let me do this. I probably gave you a million reasons why you should leave or why you should make more of an effort to get out of here, and you just let me keep going. And I feel that was what he was trying to get through to people, is that you just can't let people do things to you because you're scared to step up the plate and say, this is weird, or I don't like that. And if you don't say that, these are the kind of dangers that come along with it. And that was my opinion on what the director was really trying to portray here. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversation? Now, this part of the movie is just so well done. This is what really elevates the movie. There's a couple things that they do really well, but I would say the dialogue, I don't know how much the director had his hand in the writing of the dialogue in this movie, but it's done really well. Now, the movie does not take place in many places. The scenes, the place, the backdrop of where they are is not going to carry this movie. In fact, they don't go to many places throughout the entire movie. They're pretty much in one place for a majority of the movie. And if you're going to do that, it can very easily get boring. You have to keep us interested. And the best way to do that, one of the best ways, is by dialogue. And that's what I loved about this movie, is I was never bored because every word seemed important. And the way that they would express things seemed important. And so throughout the movie, I'm just enjoying every conversation. I'm homed in. I want to learn every piece of information I can about the characters in the movie, and it's just something I really, really enjoyed in this movie. It's what just elevates it. Now, fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? I would say in this movie there is zero bad acting. There are some level of just mediocre acting, but for the most part, every character that plays a large role in this movie, they do a great job. There's some good acting. They do a fantastic job of expressing emotions when they need to express it, but also just convincing you that they are a real person. They have things that they do constantly, little tics about them that real people have, and they just did a good job of expressing those things. I would say the person that really stole the show is James McAvoy. That guy, I swear, he's one of the best actors I've ever seen, and I don't think he gets talked about enough. I've seen him in several movies where he is just killing it. He's just murdering it. He is just absolutely, by far, the best person on screen. And this movie does the exact same thing. He kills it. He's just so good at delivering lines in a unique way, in a way to portray a certain emotion, and he has an energy about his acting that is so, it's so, I don't know, I'm forgetting the word, but it's just contagious. Like, you're so interested. It draws you in, and he plays the characters well, and he has all these faces that he does, and the way he says things. He does a really good job. The acting in this movie is another thing that elevates it. When the acting and dialogue are good, man, does it really boost a movie. And in this movie, I think this movie could have easily been very boring and very typical to other movies that are similar to it. However, they execute on things like acting and dialogue so well that it just makes the movie really good. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? I really love the cinematography in this movie, and it's not necessarily about the setting or wardrobe, but more about the emotional aspect. The setting and wardrobe is it's just okay, you know. They've got some pretty backdrops. They're in this rural country. It's nice. It's pretty. There is appealing things to look at. However, the emotional side and some of the camera decisions and placements of scenes were really well done. Something that really stood out to me was one of the scenes. You're focused on two characters, they're having a conversation, and then right before that scene ended, I noticed in the background someone watching them, and I thought, man, like, how many of those little things have I already missed in this movie? I love that they do that. I love when movies put subtle things in the background because it keeps you coming back for more. It makes you want to watch that movie again because you may have missed several little things because you're so focused on the main thing when you're watching the first time. And when you watch it again, you might see some of those little things, and you might hear parts of conversations that you didn't really grasp onto the first time because you were thinking about something while you were watching it. I love when movies do that. It's just such a good way to pull you back to watch it again and makes it interesting. Another thing they do great that pulls you into the movie is the subtle details. A lot of horror movies or thriller movies, the characters will make decisions and they won't do the subtle things that you will do in real life. So I'd say the characters in this movie, though they make some bad decisions, they're based off of they're not entirely horrible. You kind of understand why they're making them, but you're like, okay, that's kind of a bad decision. But some of the mistakes they make in this movie are really small, but they felt so real. There's a couple things that happen in this movie where they try to do something and something will occur, and I thought I would have done that exact thing. Like, that was a mistake, but I would have made that exact same mistake because there's no way I would have thought about that little tiny detail. And I really enjoyed that. I think that's that extra step that makes good movies great. And it does in this movie. It helps pull you in even more to these characters. The emotion to the scenes is really well done. You felt everything the director wanted you to. Every time the characters were nervous, every time they were unsettled, they do a great job. James McAvoy does a good job of making you feel worried or anxious, and those feelings resonate when there's some action. It doesn't feel silly, it feels tense. That's what I love about it. There's just so many ways that this movie hits on so well cinematically. Another thing that was done well was the excuses made by the other couple. Though you as a person may not have found them good enough to not take action, you could understand why these characters did. Every time there was something that was weird or suspicious, they had a good reason why it was that way. They had a reason to make you think, oh, okay, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I was thinking a little too much about that. And that's just really good writing. That's good cinematography, getting you in there and making you think twice about what is going on, why it's going on, how it's going on. I love that about it. The cinematography of this movie is done really, really well. Seventh is editing, and this is all about the pace of the movie. Now, the movie is an hour and 50 minutes long. I actually really thought that was a good length. It didn't need to be any longer, and I really felt it didn't need to be shorter. There's a lot of scenes in this movie, but every single one felt like it had some sort of purpose. You could maybe trim some little fat out of it, but that's just preference on your part. I enjoyed it. A lot of little scenes I felt helped dig you deeper into knowing these characters, getting a relationship with these characters, feeling, who they are, getting used to them. I thought the time was used well, scenes were used well, not a lot was wasted. Thought it was a good length for the story that was being told. Now, eighth is soundtrack. There's nothing in this movie that stood out to me. I couldn't. There's no music that I could remember, so there's just not much to say about it. Ninth is directing. Now, I feel the director is in charge of the previous 8 aspects. He's the one that's got to put a stamp of approval on it. He's got to put it all together and make a good movie. Now, the director is James Watkins, and this was his 4th movie. His previous movies were Eden Lake, The Woman in Black, Bastille Day, and then finally Speak No Evil. I have not seen the previous 3 movies that he's made, but I'd love to check them out because this movie was directed well. I felt this movie had a very easy chance to be just mediocre or bad, but the directing choices that were made were small in some senses and were done really, really well. He chose terrific actors and actresses that really brought the characters to life, and I don't know if he was involved in the writing, but He obviously thought it was good enough, and it was really well done. The dialogue is awesome. I felt it was the thing that kept me interested in this movie. So I'd love to see what this guy is going to do next. 10th is time. Does it stand the test of time? It will stand the test of time in the sense that it is a good movie, and the acting in it is well done. The dialogue is well done. Those things will not change. It will always be a good movie in how it was executed. However, the plot is not interesting enough. It's not unique enough. There's plenty of movies that have been done that are similar to this kind of story, and there's plenty of movies that have been done that have been done well, and they did it first. So I do feel this movie is going to be forgotten. It's not going to stand out as any sort of classic, but it will always be a good movie. Now for the ratings. Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it an 83. The audience gave it an 85. And IMDb gives it a 72. I don't really know why you'd give it a low score like 72, except maybe just the fact that they felt the plot was boring. I could understand if you were bored in this movie, because some people just don't love great dialogue, and the acting may not have been up to their standards, or was it just the kind of movie they were expecting. But it is much better than a 72 cinematically. It is a really good movie. I would probably agree with the 83, 85, very similar. I would put it right in there in that 83, 85, maybe even an 87, but what holds this movie back is the plot, not necessarily the execution. Alright, finally for the rankings. For the year of 2024 on the entertainment side, I've actually got it out of 15, second, just below The Fall Guy and above Trap. This is a really good movie, and I will watch this movie again. Like I said, I love that it has these little small details that are going to make you want to watch this movie again to see what you have missed. I really enjoyed that, and I will be watching it again. The Fall Guy is obviously a very entertaining movie, and it's an entertaining movie done well, so it's not going to trump a movie like that. That movie is such an easy watch, a good time, and it's funny. I feel it is more entertaining than Speak No Evil. As far as Trap goes, the rewatchability of this movie is better than Trap, and I felt the dialogue was better, the acting was better. Those things make it easier for me to want to watch it first. I feel they're very similar in the way that they were put together. Their stories are somewhat similar. What it's going for is very similar. But I just think Speak No Evil was done better. Cinematically, out of 15 movies, it's going to be second as well, just below Civil War and above Alien Romulus. Now, it is below Civil War just because the plot, that's all that's holding it back. I felt the dialogue was better and the acting was better in this movie, but because it's just that kind of same old story, and it's not the first one to do it, it doesn't get the credit of being early. It loses a little bit for me on that, because Civil War has decent dialogue and decent acting, but the plot is what carries that movie. It's a very interesting story, and it's unique. Modern day Civil War, nobody else has made a movie like that that I have seen. So its plot is going to elevate it a little bit more than Speak No Evil for me, just because I feel it represents cinema better by being a unique plot that does other things well. Maybe not quite as well as Speak No Evil, but it is done well. It's above Alien Romulus just for the emotional aspect. Alien Romulus, it's also got that same plot problem where it's nothing new. Now, it does have a little twist, but it's not the first Alien movie, and it replicates a lot of what the Alien movies were doing. That's what Speak No Evil is. It replicates a lot of what these thrillers do, except it just executes better. It's got better dialogue, got better acting. Those things are going to easily put it over Alien Romulus for me. For the decade of the 2020s, it is actually going to be in the same positions, just out of 16 movies. I'm not going to explain any more on that. It's the same position for the exact same reasons. For all time on the entertainment side, I have it out of 22 movies, fifth, just below A Million Ways to Die in the West and above Trap. Now, A Million Ways to Die in the West, it's just an easier movie to digest. It's kind of long, but it's funny, it's entertaining. It even has some of those serious aspects that help keep it a good movie. And this movie is a little heavy on dialogue, and it doesn't quite have as much pulling for it. As far as entertainment, it's just not as easy to watch, but it is a great movie, and so it's still going to be something I choose to watch again, and I will choose to watch it periodically, but I just feel that Million Ways to Die in the West is just a little easier. And Trap, it's above for the same exact reasons as before. For cinematography, out of 22 movies, I've got it third, just below Civil War and above Alien Romulus. It's there for the exact same reasons that it was before. That's all I've got for Speak No Evil. Let me know in the comments what you think. Am I overhyping this movie? Is it as good as you think it was? Would you put it just that high in the cinematic rankings or the entertainment rankings? Please let me know. If you like what you watch, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more movies that I review. Anything helps with the channel. Comment a movie that you want me to review. I've got a nice list going. Unfortunately, I'm very busy with school and work, so I can't quite get to them as much as I can, but I will get to them at some point. So please make sure you comment if you want to. Otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.